Drift is a 2023 film that first premiered at Sundance Film Festival. This is directed by Anthony Chen, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. And this got a wider release in 2024. Again, I feel like I'm repeating myself with that, where all these films are coming out in 2024 that technically were 2023 films, but for all intents and purposes, I don't know which one to call it because they got their wide release in 24, so I just go with that kind of thing. But regardless, this is a very independent film, very art, well, not very art house, but it definitely feel it has that art house feel to it. And it's very like on the dry side, very quiet, very intimate kind of thing. And basically, what we have going on here, this is based on a book, by the way, and it takes place on this fictional Greek island, and we're introduced to this young woman. Her name is Jacqueline, and she is West African, and she basically is, for all intents and purposes, drifting on this island, and she's kind of. You see her journey essentially. It doesn't look like she really lives anywhere. She seems kind of like a gypsy-ish. She's looking for work on the beach. She'll kind of take food wherever she can take it. There's one point where she takes like a bottle of oil and uses it to make money on the beach by massaging people's feet. And she seems to be living day by day kind of thing, and it's very mysterious at the beginning because this film doesn't have a lot of dialogue in the first like at least 15 minutes from what I've seen, and it's very slow paced at the beginning. Very slow paced. You're just slowly getting to know this young woman, and you eventually start to get small flashbacks, but they really start very brief every once in a while. And this film, like I said, paces itself very slowly. It's not too long. It's only an hour and a half, but it definitely takes its time in revealing this girl's past and basically this girl's story. She ends up meeting another girl whose name is Callie, and Callie is basically an American tour guide who gives tours in this Greek island to all kinds of tourists. And they start a relationship. There's hints of romance to the relationship, but it's subtle. You can tell it's there, but it's not totally in your face. And this girl Callie, who I looked up the actress, I forget the actress's name, but it's funny because one of the only roles that I definitely recognize her from, funny enough, was when she was much younger in Deck the Halls with Matthew Broderick and Danny DeVito, which I actually reviewed on the channel, funny enough. But yeah, this was like years ago, so she's clearly in her 30s now. But she plays this tour guide, and then, like I said, they really start this bond, and with this bond, you start to get more and more of Jacqueline's past in West Africa. She had a family there. She kind of had to run away from it, and slowly but surely you get the reveals. A lot of tragedy. I'll just leave it at that, with like leaving it spoiler free. And by the time the third act comes around, where you really start to get everything that happened in Jacqueline's past, things get really brutal, and the flashbacks get really brutal and very detailed. We're dealing with like African militia and stuff like that, and violence, and like really terrible, gruesome violence that happens, especially when it comes to the African militia, like involving like little kids. Like there's like seemingly 8 to 10 year old kids amongst the militia with the rifles, and they're like doing everything that the adults do, and it's just it gets really brutal. So yeah, that's basically it. It's a character study on two characters. You have this young black girl from West Africa, and you have this American white girl who's a tour guide in Greece. Both of them, I don't think either of them speak Greek. So the American girl speaks some Greek, but pretty much only English, and then the black girl's from Britain. She when she left West Africa, she went to Britain, and then from Britain she went to this Greek island, and she's basically a refugee. Like she doesn't have a place to go necessarily. So she just drifts and she lives day by day, and it's kind of like a paradise anyway. So she's not in the cold or anything, or she's not starving to death. She's kind of surrounded in an area where it's livable, you could say, and she's she's in a place where, you know, food's not going to run out, shelter's not going to run out, kind of thing. She's in an environment where it's easier to take care of yourself, kind of thing. But I really liked, although this film does get dry a lot, and it wasn't my favorite um, kind of film. Like, I love my art house cinema and I love my independent cinema. This one does get boring a tad. It really starts to pick up in its third act, and again, that's my favorite part of the movie. Just because you really start to understand why these girls bonded. At the beginning, you kind of don't see too much chemistry, too much connection with them, but it really is. Um, it really showcases itself in its third act, and there's this one scene which pretty much the climax for all intents and purposes, where Jacqueline finally reveals everything, and that's when you get a lot of the flashbacks, and it's like a bathtub scene. She's in the bathtub, and Callie is just listening to her story, and Callie, like, the emotions on her face, great actress. You could just see like her taking all this in and just being absolutely devastated and heartbroken, and her empathy just coming right out, listening to Jacqueline tell this horrific story about what happened to her family and everything, and and it just gets tragic at that moment. So both actresses were powerhouse in their performances. And I don't mind the pacing. I don't mind the fact that this film was slow and took its time. I actually appreciate that. But there are moments in this film that drag too much, especially when you don't understand everything, and a lot of it is just like walking and talking, and you know, there'll be moments that are just dragged where it's like, okay, we get it now. And they obviously want to focus on like the landscape, and the island's beautiful, clearly. And it takes a while, especially for their bond. It's not the pace of the movie itself, it's just the two girls bonding that you really, I think for the characters themselves, that's what is a little bit too slow, probably, in getting to know these characters. But when you do, it's the payoff is worth it. So getting there is a little bit, you know, on the slow side, but when you get there, it's really, really well done. And the tragedy of this movie, in Jacqueline's life and in her past, and why she had to leave West Africa, and what got her to this island in the first place, is a really good character arc and character development, and it's really good stuff. I can't tell you which character I liked better, because they both were really amazing performances. I liked Jacqueline's story better because it was more interesting. But I think Jacqueline's story wouldn't have been, not complete, but I don't think it would have been ignited, if that's a good way to put it, without Callie showing up, without Callie kind of bringing it out of her. Because one thing about Jacqueline too, she was so reserved, and this is a PTSD kind of trauma that she just buried right inside of her, and then Callie comes along and helps bring that out, almost like, you know, therapy kind of, like a therapy kind of way. And it's like, you know, it's like Callie's character was almost the catalyst for healing Jacqueline, and I really thought that was powerful and very beautiful in the way it worked, and their relationship was very interesting, and it you know, it doesn't, like I said, go full on romance, but you can see the love they have for each other, even if they're not intimate, or even if they weren't going to go to anywhere intimate. You can still see that they have this powerful bond and this unique bond that the film showcased very well in the writing and in the directing. So, very interesting film. And if you like independent cinema, if you like, I guess this is an international film too. But it's a very beautiful piece of work. Not my favorite of its kind, like I said, but it's certainly not the worst. I mean, I watched a film this year called Fallen Leaves, which I would say this one is on the dry side, like Fallen Leaves is, but this one takes the step up over Fallen Leaves, in my opinion. So, you know, I've seen much better. I've seen much worse. I could easily land at a 2.5 out of 5 on this one. Very enjoyable stuff and very powerful stuff, and good piece of work from the director. And as a book lover now, I probably would look up the book too and see if I would be interested in that. But that's about it on the film. This is a film channel, so let's keep it with films. And go check out Drift if it sounds up your alley, and subscribe to Morgan Film Fan if you like to listen to my voice or if you like my film reviews. I'll be back with more soon, so stay tuned for those. Check out what's on the channel already. Stay tuned for what's coming. Until next review, have a good one. Take care and cheers.